This is Donald Trump, the 45th and soon-to-be 47th President of the United States. On Saturday, March 16th, Trump held a rally in Vandalia, Ohio, where he addressed the border crisis.
If I had prisons that were teeming with MS-13 and all sorts of people that they've got to take care of for the next 50 years, right? Young people, they're in jail for years, and if you call them people, I don't know if you call them people. In some cases, they're not people, in my opinion, but I'm not allowed to say that because the radical left says that's a terrible thing to say. They say you have to vote against him because did you hear what he said about humanity? I've seen the humanity, and these are bad, these are animals, okay?
So President Trump was speaking about members of the notorious international criminal gang known as MS-13. You may have heard of them. You know, the dangerous murderers. So calling them animals shouldn't be controversial, right? Right?
This is what he said about migrants.
Young people, they're in jail for years, and if you call them people, I don't know if you call them people. In some cases, they're not people, in my opinion, but I'm not allowed to say that because the radical left says that's a terrible thing to say.
And here we go again. Trump was clearly talking about violent criminals, not migrants in general. Or maybe Anderson Cooper thinks that all migrants are criminals and have been in jails at one point. I don't know.
And last night at a rally in Ohio, he said some undocumented immigrants aren't people.
And during his speech, Trump called some migrants animals.
Republican nominee for president of the United States suggests that he views some of the migrants coming into the United States as not even people.
He lashed out at migrants.
Migrants as animals.
Former President Donald Trump kicked up a firestorm as he described some migrants during his weekend rally in Ohio.
These are bad. These are animals, okay?
The former president also used harsh language about migrants, saying he doesn't consider some of them to be people, later calling them animals.
Most recently, the focus has been heavily about undocumented immigrants who he said are, quote, not people.
The media is disgusting. They're twisting Trump's words. It's not even about context at this point. This is just straight up lying. And one of the biggest liars in all of media is ABC News' Jonathan Karl.
He called some of the undocumented immigrants who have crossed the Mexican border animals.
They're not people, in my opinion, but I'm not allowed to say that.
You saw where the clip started, right? Jonathan Karl specifically framed it to create the illusion that Trump said that all border crossers aren't people. That is not journalism, that is deception.
Trump also ramping up his dehumanizing rhetoric towards certain migrants, with the border battle a major election issue.
If you call them people, I don't know if you call them people. In some cases, they're not people, in my opinion, but...
Dehumanizing rhetoric towards certain migrants. But which migrants? Maybe I missed it. So let's play it again.
Trump also ramping up his dehumanizing rhetoric towards certain migrants, with the border battle a major election issue.
If you call them people, I don't know if you call them people. In some cases, they're not people, in my opinion, but...
So which certain migrants? Couldn't tell you. Because Mary Alice Parks left out the oh-so-important context as to which certain migrants Trump was referring to. But that's not as bad as the next batch of reports.
And the incendiary speech from Donald Trump at a rally over the weekend with attacks on immigrants as subhuman.
He called some immigrants coming into the country not even human.
And called immigrants animals.
Former President Trump also facing criticism for his dehumanizing anti-immigrant rhetoric.
Notice that it went from Trump called migrants animals to Trump called immigrants animals. Trump wasn't even talking about immigrants. But it should be no surprise because George Stephanopoulos, the former top operative to the Clintons, always lies with impunity. And what these news outlets aren't considering is that this could all backfire on the Democrats. Think about it. Don't you think that some people are going to be offended that the news is lying to them when they find out what Trump actually said? I mean, is it any wonder that media confidence is at a historic low? According to Gallup, a whopping 39% of Americans have zero trust for the media. But sure, let's take hardworking patriotic immigrants who entered the country the right way and are attempting to make something of themselves in the greatest country in the world, and then put them in the same category as violent criminals, drug traffickers, and rapists. Makes sense to me. What's your problem? So Trump has been railing against MS-13 and criminal gangs since before his presidency. Here he is back in 2017.
And MS-13, the cartel, has spread gruesome bloodshed throughout the United States. We've gotten a lot of them out of here. But MS-13 is particularly violent. They don't like shooting people because it's too quick. It's too fast. I was reading one of these animals was caught and explaining they like to them and let them die slowly because that way it's more painful and they enjoy watching that much more. These are animals.
And Trump has always treated this as a serious problem. He's passionate about it. And on May 16th, 2018, Trump held a roundtable event at the White House and spoke about California's sanctuary state laws.
California's law provides safe harbor to some of the most vicious and violent offenders on earth, like MS-13 gang members, putting innocent men, women, and children at the mercy of these sadistic criminals.
During that roundtable, Sheriff Margaret Mims of Fresno County, California, mentioned that because of state laws, ICE agents were prohibited from properly doing their jobs.
ICE is the only law enforcement agency that cannot use our databases to find the bad guys. They cannot come in and talk to people in our jail unless they reach a certain threshold. They can't do all kinds of things that other law enforcement agencies can do. And it's really put us in a very bad position. It's a disgrace. There can be an MS-13 gang member I know about. If they don't reach a certain threshold, I cannot tell ICE about them.
Imagine that someone commits a heinous crime in California. You arrest them, and they turn out to be a gang member who is also an illegal alien. And if you report them to ICE, you will be violating state law. How is this in any way protecting the public at large? Well, it's not. And you can tell that this type of thing bothers Trump in a big way.
We have people coming into the country or trying to come in. We're stopping a lot of them. But we're taking people out of the country. You wouldn't believe how bad these people are. These aren't people. These are animals. And we're taking them out of the country at a level and at a rate that's never happened before.
So again, Trump was referring to removing MS-13 gang members and violent criminals from the United States. This shouldn't be controversial in any way, right? Wrong. The press framed their headlines and stories to paint Donald Trump as a racist who hates immigrants and said that they're not people. These are not journalists. These are professional liars. And speaking of professional liars, here's Nancy Pelosi.
We're all God's children. There's a spark of divinity in every person on earth, and that we all have to recognize that as we respect the dignity and worth of every person. And so when the President of the United States says about undocumented immigrants, these aren't people, these are animals, you have to wonder, does he not believe in the spark of divinity?
Trump didn't call undocumented immigrants animals. The roundtable was about illegal immigrant criminals, drug dealers, gang members, violent predators. And of course, Senator Chuck Schumer had to chime in and say, when all of our great-great-grandparents came to America, they weren't animals, and these people aren't either. Wait, so Chuck Schumer's great-great-grandparents were gang members and or illegal border crossers? You learn something new every day.
Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, as an example, are trying to defend MS-13 gang members. I called them animals the other day, and I was met with rebuke. They said, they're people. They're not people. These are animals. And we have to be very, very tough.
And think about it. The same people that falsely accused Donald Trump of calling Nazis and white supremacists fine people will talk out of the other side of their mouths and say that you're not allowed to say bad things about murderers because the spark of divinity. Democrats are lunatics. Anyway, the reason that the Democrats and the media, same thing, are really leaning hard into the whole Trump hates immigrants hoax is because Joe Biden is bleeding support from Latino voters. And this is a big deal. According to the New York Times, Hispanic voters are favoring Trump over Biden 46% to 40%. And to compare, in the month before the last election, Joe Biden was leading Trump 50% to 30%. And the Biden campaign is pretty nervous about this, as they should be. So they made up another hoax about Trump instead of running on their policies, because it's the policies that are driving Hispanic voters away, among other things.
The diversity of this community, as distinct as the Bogotas of the Bronx and as unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio.
We have a very, in relative terms, large Puerto Rican population in Delaware. So I was sort of raised in the Puerto Rican community at home. It's awful hard as well to get Latinx vaccinated as well. Why? They're worried that they'll be vaccinated and deported.
You know, when we think about minority small business owners, and let's be more specific about Latino small business owners, yes, it is restaurants, but it is so much more.
And I mean this sincerely. My dad used to say, everyone is entitled to be treated with dignity and respect. The Congressional Black Caucus embodies all those values.
Sí, se puede! The future is ours!
Anyway, that's it for now. Follow me on X at Don't Walk Run, and while you're at it, subscribe to the channel. As always, thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. If there is next time.